Welcome to the Nut Club Podcast.
Jokes right themselves.
Episode 4.
Episode 4.
Man, it's good to be here, guys.
Absolutely. Welcome
We've
back.
only just begun
See what you
Is
guys...
it to live? Yeah, I thought it was to learn, maybe.
I think it's live. Yeah.
I believe you.
So you listeners
From
don't
Happy Gilmore. It's the only way I know it.
you listeners don't know that we've had a week without Jared, so it's a little different having him back in here. To you guys, he's been here every week. To us,
I went on vacation, everyone. Miramar Beach. It was great. Hunted crabs. The crabs leave these little holes where they dig down. I think they're ghost crabs. I had to look it up. And I originally thought they were clams. And so we started digging, looking for clams. But if you get close enough to the crabs and they're real small, they freaking jump out at you like a spider would, like when you're trying to chase it. And they run up the hole. And so they're jumping out, trying to get away from you. And they run sideways too. It's really weird.
did any of them get you?
One of them pinched one of my sons, made him bleed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got some big ones after a while. So the bigger the hole, the bigger the crab. Yeah. So we would start hunting for the bigger holes. And so there was one I had to dig down 4 feet. My arm was all the way down in there. I'm leaning my head in there trying to get it. I didn't find that one. It pissed me off.
Are you not scared that thing's going to pinch you?
No, I'll take him.
It's bad to say. I've watched those noodling videos. I'm not.
I don't know if I would noodle.
No further than the elbow.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
They put their heads under and they're going way down there. And there's this girl on TikTok that I watch. And Hannah or something. And dude, she'll stick her whole arm through these things.
Oh, dude.
And they're yanking her around and she's underwater and everything. It's just more balls than I've got.
Can you imagine getting drowned by a catfish if your arm got stuck in its mouth?
Terrible way to die.
It's a tough way to go.
It is. It's bad. Bad news.
So I've kind of had a question that's been applying to my life recently that I feel like a lot of people kind of struggle with.
Okay.
And that is...
You got to get better toilet paper.
That too. When I was in the fraternity in college, single-ply toilet paper was my worst enemy.
No, wet wipes. When you got that, you got to bring the wet wipes.
You have no idea how happy I was when I first started working here. And I walked in that bathroom and realized we had Charmin Ultra Soft.
Oh, only the best, guys. I just I make sure we only use the best toilet paper.
Single ply really is rough.
No, it's bad.
There's no better sign of a tough day than walking into some single ply.
Yeah, might as well just wipe it with your finger because that's what you end up doing with single ply.
That's true. I want it to be as soft and durable as possible. So just so you know, I'm thinking about you guys.
I appreciate
decisions.
I appreciate you thinking about my ass.
You're welcome.
It goes a long way.
It does.
So I often lack the motivation to get to the gym regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Doing things that I enjoy, that's considered exercise, like jiu-jitsu and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not hard to get to the gym regularly, but weightlifting, cardio, things that I know are good for me in the long run, it's just not doable. But I start a day really motivated, but I have a family and it's hard to hit the gym in an early day, so it'd have to be a nighttime thing. And by that time, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any advice on how I can stay driven, get driven, to get to the gym? Any tricks or tips?
Well, so it depends on what you're doing, obviously. I think a lot of people, when they have this problem, start out really gung-ho. They start out really motivated. They change up their entire lifestyle. They start a new diet. They start a new workout program. They're changing their entire routine up that they've had because now they're going to work out before the work or something like that. And all it takes in that situation is just for you to get tired. If you get tired enough, eventually one day you skip the gym. Eventually one day you stop eating on your diet. You choose what's easier or something like that. And that's the big issue. I think that most people bite off more than they can chew and that they start with too much. And I think that the easiest way to gain motivation in these kind of things is to set kind of smaller, more manageable goals that you can get. Instead of, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, start out with 2 days a week. If you can't make it, start with 2 and consider 2 a success. And that would be one of the first things that starts with, gaining motivation. Another one would be changing up something in your diet. Small stuff, for the most part, can help you feel better. When you feel better, you go to the gym, you're more active, you're willing to do things. When you don't feel good, your stomach doesn't feel good, or you feel bloated or something like that, you're less likely to be active, less likely to go to the gym. So one of the small things that you can do is just start cutting portions down slightly, or start choosing a little bit better foods, or avoid the stuff, causes stomach issues for you, or start a diet. You could start a diet if you're that kind of person that needs to jump in to a diet, but start something there, and that will lead to better success going to the gym more consistently when you don't like it.
So does maybe cutting out Taco Bell help out a little bit?
Taco Bell would help a little,
I think it definitely is a lot about changes, but I think too the things that stand out are you said small and start a lot. Those aren't necessarily the sexy things. People don't want to like hear those things off the bat because it's not as, it's not as, I don't know, it's not as much bang for your buck when you talk about those things, but those really are the things that lead to long-term success. Mm-hmm. Starting something and trying to have some sort of element of consistency to it. And the small changes, if you say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and run a mile every day this next week, by the 6th or 7th day, you might feel like a failure. You need to consider the miles you've run already. This all or nothing mentality with fitness really does yourself a disservice no matter what, because you're setting such a high bar for yourself. You're probably going to fail.
Yeah. Well, you'll fail if you set yourself up with something that you're not going to stick to. I mean, everybody's busy. So changing routines is a long process and it's really hard to do. And I mean, you think about school starting again or something like that. I mean, you guys don't have kids. My kids are in school. The whole routine changes. And it takes a while to adapt to the times when they're going to get up. And, if my kids went to school instead of homeschooled, the time that they come home from school and like all that changes your whole schedule. My wife does certain things on Mondays and Fridays for homeschool. And so those are days I don't work out. And so I didn't go work out this morning because I try not to leave the house at the same time she's needing help with the kids getting ready in the morning. So that's stuff that you just have to take into consideration. But you're right. It's small starts will add up over time. And you could even, as much as people don't like the mentality of, being okay with less and not rushing to the finish line, you can consider success, a much lower bar than what you're setting yourself up for, because a lot of people will just go completely off track when they stop working out and they stop dieting. Sure. Now they're back to what's the opposite? Well, it's, gluttoning myself.
Right.
Food.
But I think you just said the most important part of that, though, is that it's because you feel like a failure that leads you to that. It's like your mindset. If you think about going to the gym, if I just get in there 2 or 3 times a week at the start, that is good. Yeah. That is good. So I think people just kind of in a weird way need to be kind of almost nicer to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of these things.
I know it sounds so.
Yeah, it's kind of the self-help guru answer, but at the same time, fitness is not a short-term thing.
Well, you got to think most people that get into fitness, they do it because they hate themselves.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's not the popular way to look at it, but they hate the way they look. They hate the way they feel about themselves.
They definitely want to change
and they want to change it, especially the bodybuilding types.
Yes.
And there's always I saw a TikTok video the other day and it was some girl that broke up with this guy and all the comments were like, "Welcome to the gym, bro." And it's just like, that's the catalyst for a lot of guys. And I'm sure there's a big catalyst for a lot of girls, but the need to improve the way they look is, a small portion of self-hatred. So I think that's if you have to instead be happy with the progress that you make, the small changes, things like that, and put your perspective, in the long term.
Right.
I think a lot of the issue is that we've been conditioned to think that you either have to go in and be working hard in the gym 5 days a week to see results. That if you take days off or if you have cheat meals or not able to go in 100%, you're not going to get any results and it's not going to be worth your time and you're just wasting it.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how true that is?
Well, it just depends on where you're at in your fitness journey, right? I mean, if you're a bodybuilder and you're having too many cheat meals and you're skipping a workout here and there, like you're not going to get the results that you want. But if you're not doing anything at all right now and you need to just be active and you just need to work out and you just need to eat better. What's bad for the bodybuilder is great for the person that's getting started. And I think what you're saying, a lot of people have this bodybuilder kind of mentality because they started the whole industry of 5 days of workouts. You must work out for this, long period of time. You need to eat these certain ways, diet excessively, things like that. And it pervades especially the hardcore people in the industry, which are, the trendsetters, the influencers and things like that. And so people try to, go all in like them and they try to get the results that they have instead of, starting with these, smaller stepping stones. But to answer your question more directly, it's not the problem of if a cheat meal is planned, it's not a cheat meal. Is kind of the way I would look at it. You're not falling off your diet if it's planned. If you have a diet and you followed it and then you reward yourself by allowing yourself to have a guilt-free cheat meal, that's just part of the plan. Same with if you only want to work out 3 days a week and then you feel lazy on the 4th day and you're just like, man, I feel like I should work out. Well, you can realize that you've done what you need to do and you have permission to be lazy and permission to not feel like going to the gym. And it changes your mindset.
And that's in a way better way that you just articulated it. Like, that's what I was trying to say with the be kinder to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give yourself some grace, some room, some wiggle room. Set yourself up for a long-term thing. This isn't, it's going to be your whole life.
Yeah.
Your approach to fitness should be probably more like that. Unless you have a specific goal for like a show date or, a wedding, a vacation you want to look good for, or something like that. Obviously different.
Yeah. Those are the challenges that push you into it, but you have to figure out how to, they call it blast and cruise in bodybuilding to a certain degree. You blast for a while, you get the results, and then it's okay to cruise. And it's okay to take it easy and have a minimum level, because sometimes life gets really busy and sometimes you have to go back to cruising and go back to a minimum level that's an acceptable minimum level. It maintains your discipline and it keeps you disciplined, but it also allows you some more leeway.
Yeah, and I think using that wording exactly, I think too many people are focused on the blasting and not enough on the cruising.
They want to blast 365.
Exactly. Cruising, it's like that's your daily life.
Yeah.
Is cruising.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So it goes in phases. But definitely to get motivated, to get your butt in the gym for the most part, start as small as you need to start. I mean, if you need to go for a daily walk because you're really out of shape and you can't make it to the gym, go for a daily walk. And that's that is your success. And then it can build up from there. There's a term in bodybuilding called progressive overload. And in progressive overload, you're always pushing for more strength, more reps, more, exercises, and your volume goes up and your strength goes up and things. And that's how the muscle is challenged and how the muscle grows. Well, the workout can be the same way. It doesn't have to start at the hardest workout, 6 days a week or something like that. It can start very small. And just like progressive overload, you're always trying to add just a little bit to it every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, something like that, where you get a little bit more. Maybe you go to the gym an extra day or something like that. Or maybe you start going to the gym, whatever it is can change as you go. You don't have to have it figured out.
So there's also an issue of, yes, I have a hard time getting to the gym, staying disciplined, to get to the gym. But when you're just starting out, you don't even know what to do. You don't even know what to do there. Like it's kind of embarrassing at some point because you look around, you see all these guys, girls, whoever, knowing exactly what they're doing, seeming like they've been there forever, and then you're kind of looking like an idiot, not knowing where to start. So do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, it's interesting. The longer you go to the gym, I mean, you still feel like an idiot when you're doing a new exercise. And so for anybody that's going to the gym, I mean, if being a bodybuilder and doing things for years, there's a new exercise and I don't know it, I feel just as uncomfortable as somebody that's stepping into the gym that is there for the first time and doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, we'll come grab it. Grab that.
Sounds good. Huh? A delivery. Ba-da-da. Yeah. I had to turn it down a little bit because it's picking up so much of the ladies over there.
She's like over there.
Yeah, there's a wall in between us. There's a wall in between us. Like I don't even understand how that happened. Yeah. How loud they are.
You just have that voice that travels. It's very loud.
Interruption. I would start back over with your question.
Yeah, and I had to pause there because I was adjusting the audio to try to get her laugh out anyway. So it kind of worked out.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just start back over with whatever your question was. And then you can just splice them together.
That's fine. Oh. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So obviously I have the issue of getting to the gym, staying motivated to get to the gym. But part of that kind of resonates in when I get there, I don't know what I'm doing. I look around, I see all these other people doing exactly what they're supposed to do, form great. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what exercises to do to ensure that I'm going to get results. Like, how do you recommend someone like me who has no idea how to lift weights that wants to get started? How do they get started?
That's a good question. There's a lot of different ways that you could get started in the gym. First thing you need to know before you go is that everybody, that's just the initiation into the gym, is that you're going to feel like an idiot before you finally figure out what you're doing. And even every time you start a new exercise that you don't know, you'll feel like an idiot trying to figure it out. Feel like people are looking at you. Even the people that have been there forever still feel like that periodically. So that's something everybody needs to know. And it's kind of like I said, your initiation into the gym. Like once you've been going for a while, the people that are there, they recognize you. There's a camaraderie to some degree, things like that. But if you're going, you don't know what to do, there's a lot of options, right? But I would say it's always better to have a plan than it is to go in there and wing it. So, but say you wing it, you didn't have a plan, you didn't listen to me. I would say you just go through the exercises that are the machines would be your first option, right? And then I would just say you just write down what you do. That would be, you could split it. One day is upper body and one day is lower body. And so you just do all the upper body machines and you do it until your muscles feel fatigued. And then you go to the next machine, and you do 1 day upper body, 1 day lower body. You could start 2 days a week. You could start 3 days a week, and it's upper, lower, just back and forth. Every Monday switches, something like that. And so that's the way that you could get started if you didn't know. Otherwise, I would say finding some sort of a workout plan. You need some sort of education, just very basic. What are reps? What are sets? What are the different exercises? Things like that. But I would grab a workout plan. There's a million things that are out there now. I really like what's called a push-pull legs split. It's 3 days a week. 1 day you do the push exercises, all the ones where you push them away from your body. 1 day you do all the pull exercises that are pulled towards your body, like pull-ups and rows and things like that, bicep curls. And then 1 day is legs. And so I think that that's one of the best splits to do other than an upper-lower split. And so you could just type that in to Google, if you didn't know what to do, push-pull legs split. You'll find workout programs there. And just like I was telling John before we jumped on here, I learned everything in the magazines whenever I was doing it. So whenever I was growing up, there wasn't a YouTube. I couldn't look up an exercise the same way that I could just look in a magazine, see the pictures of the guy doing the exercise, see his workout plan. And then I would take either pieces or that entire workout plan, and I would do that workout plan, and I would do those exercises. And that's how I learned how to do it. And so if you don't know what an exercise is, open up your phone, pull up YouTube, type in the exercise. Mm-hmm. There's 30,000 people that are going to show you how to do the exercise. There's, not a big enough difference for it to matter on most of them, unless you get into a more technically detailed exercise. But even then, it's easy to find the experts. So that would be kind of the easiest thing I would say to get started.
I think so. I think people are a lot. They seem to be more worried about form at the start, which you answered with the machines. That's the initial answer. But also, don't worry about weight. I know as a guy, you're going to want to come in and just be worried about how much you bench, how much you curl, how much you squat, all that. It comes in time. Form is so much more important than the amount of weight you're going to be putting up.
Yeah, it's always a form issue. Like I took my kids to the gym and they were doing dumbbell bench press. And they could do a lot heavier if it was a machine, I'm sure.
Exactly.
But the balancing of the dumbbells, whenever they were doing it to bring in all the stabilizer muscles, was the hardest part for them, and trying to control it while they were doing it. So the first part of exercise is learning how to control the weight,
exactly.
Not necessarily how hard you can push. The machines take some of that equation out of there. But as you go, I would go machines before I would go free weights.
Absolutely.
And I would do it gradually. I would add in a free weight exercise just, as you have a bunch of machines that you're already familiar with. Now you're going to try dumbbell bench press instead of a machine press or something like that.
Really important thing you said too is writing down the weights that you're doing.
Yeah, you have to keep track of what weight, how many reps, and how many sets you did. On your phone, and the Notes app is the easiest. I used a notebook for years where I would just literally write it down in between sets. Yeah. This day was Monday the 18th, and this is what I did on the day. Yeah. The important part is that you do those same exercises, you come back to them. Now your goal is to try and add more weight, or at least write yourself notes that you should have gone down in weight. This was too heavy. I should have gone down. And that way you're going to be more consistent in your progress. You're going to know exactly what you need to do. And the fastest way you can learn what you need to do is just having data that shows you. And the data is the logbook. The data is also progress pictures. The data can be the scale, all of these indicators of how your progress is going.
Absolutely. It's really important to have those in track, because it's so hard to keep track of what you're doing. You're going to feel different certain days. Your energy levels are going to be different.
For sure.
having that consistency. I was watching the Arnold documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
And like he was talking about when he started working out, they would just literally write on chalk.
Yeah.
Like right in front of him, like what you did. And the next day you saw it.
Yeah.
So there was never any doubt about what you need to be doing or what you basically could do.
Back when 12 people were working out in the gym.
Yeah. That's also true.
Nobody there. Life is so different these days.
Yeah. You go to the gym at 5 on a Monday and try to go get a bench. It's it's rough these days.
That's pretty rough.
Everyone's on the push-pull legs thing.
Yeah. You don't want to do chest on Monday. It's
Exactly.
universal chest day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing I think a lot of people run into is dieting. Like
Yep.
by working out, they stay disciplined. They're figuring out their exercises. Their next obstacle is dieting.
Yep.
And what ones actually work. You know, these extreme diets have gotten very popular. Whether it be a keto, carnivore. I think a vegan's diet's extreme.
Vegans are pretty popular.
I think that's extreme.
That's extreme for sure.
It's
very
very
huge
extreme.
food sources are being cut out in each of them.
Yeah.
So
The reason they usually have to supplement with something else.
yeah, they usually have to bring in some other supplements or something, especially vegans.
Yeah. They need protein.
Yeah. Keto has its own problems. The carnivore diet has its own problems. I mean, but the biggest problem of all of them is sustainability. You know, I'm a regular person. I go and eat food with my friends and my parents, and I go eat out occasionally and things like that. And, there's a birthday party with cake or ice cream and things. And I'm not going to rule those things out of my life completely. That's the stuff that I enjoy. That's like taking a chunk of your life and saying you never get to enjoy this part of your life again. You know, ice cream's gone forever or something. And on a keto diet, for the most part, it is. There's ways to factor it in with refeeds and things like that for the keto lovers that are out there. It's doable. But the biggest problem is sustainability. You know, how can you keep doing it? How can you do it when your day gets screwed up? How can you do it when you fell off your plan the day before? How does it affect you if you fall off your plan? If you're in keto and trying to get in ketosis, then you cheat your ass off. Now you've just caused a problem where you're going to have to go through the same process of getting into ketosis again. So that creates a whole new problem. If you're carnivore, you start to eat foods that your body's not used to. You're going to create all sorts of stomach issues. You know, you start eating a bunch of carbs because you had a cheat meal, but your body's used to this animal-based diet. Your body's not going to process the carbs very well, create a different problem for you. So the biggest thing that I look at is sustainability. And extreme diets are never sustainable, not for a lifetime. They're good for the blast. They're not a cruise kind of thing. There are people that can make it work. More power to them. They're very committed to that kind of thing. But those committed people don't need the help getting started in discipline.
Newsflash, discipline will work for almost anything.
Yeah, discipline works. But not everybody is disciplined.
Yeah.
And the answer is, of course, to work with how to become more disciplined, not to make you feel bad because you're not disciplined, right? So you can go into those extreme diets, but there's no proof that any of them are superior. You know, everyone has their claim as to why their diet is superior, but the superior diet, in my opinion, is when you can eat like a relatively normal person and look the way that you want to look. That's the superior diet to me. And I think that's changing your eating habits over the long term is the real way to do it. And the focus being sustainability for the most part. You don't have to count out every food source and get rid of carbs completely like in the keto diets, or, get rid of all the grains and things completely like animal diets, or meat like in the vegan diet or things like that. I think it's a mistake to get rid of anything. The macro diets are really cool because the macro diets allow you to eat anything. You could have ice cream as a part of your evening if your macros allow you to have it. But macros can be complicated.
Sure.
And so it's a hard one to start with, but it's definitely the most sustainable. But it does take a lot of effort because you have to plan things out in advance. You have to do the math of the macros. You have to track all your foods, things like that. So getting started, I wouldn't mess with that. I would find more of some eating rules to get started with before I would follow a diet necessarily, right? Protein should be the base of every meal. You should always have protein. You should shoot for a certain amount of protein per day, which you can divide out per meals. Usually that's your body weight in grams of protein. So if you're 160 pounds, you should shoot for at least 160 grams of protein per day. You can split that into 4 meals if you want to. That's 40 grams of protein per meal. That should be the base of every diet in existence. And that's going to support the muscle building. That's going to support your metabolism. That's going to support your blood sugar stabilization, make you feel better throughout the day, provide you different energy sources, things like that. So that's number one. And if you eliminate, for the most part, the processed foods, and you focus more on naturally occurring foods, the calorie decrease is natural. If you eat apples instead of Rice Krispie treats, you're going to naturally eat less because there's not as many calories in an apple. Doesn't mean you can't have Rice Krispie treats. It just means that those need to be limited more, and you need to focus more on the apple. When you eat pasta, because it's so easy to eat a lot of carbs, you should know that and instead choose something else that's not as easy. Rice is not as easy to eat as many carbs in. There's still plenty, but rice is pretty low calorie. So I'd say, it's really changing some of these eating habits and paying attention to your hunger and stopping before you actually feel full and stuffed. I had whatever my wife cooked last night, like some basically chicken nuggets with like a crushed up goldfish on the outside. It's like a breaded chicken. All right.
Good. Fried chicken kind of?
Yeah, it's baked, but it's like a fried chicken kind of thing with goldfish crackers on the outside or something. So
I love those goldfish.
Not perfect, but a good compromise. My kids eat chicken that way because they got the goldfish on the outside. It's good quality chicken. But the thing that I noticed was they tasted great, so I ate extra, and then I ate bread with it. And then I had an ice cream sandwich afterwards. And I was full the rest of the night. And if I would take my own advice, I would have stopped early. I wouldn't have had the ice cream sandwich. I probably would have eaten a little bit less of the bread, things like that. And as you start to pay attention to those hunger cues, they're naturally built in. We just ignore them so often.
Yeah.
We ignore what our stomach feels like and how hungry we are on both sides. For the skinny people, they ignore being hungry. And the large people cannot ignore the craving for food. And they go and satisfy that craving too often. And I think once you start to realize where this hunger cue is and you stop eating, before you're full, the weight loss happens more naturally. It's more sustainable. It's a life choice where you got to a restaurant, you leave food on your plate. Naturally, that restaurant is not going to be as troublesome for you as if you had my old bodybuilding mentality where you finished everything on your plate and you gorged yourself when you had a cheat meal,
Yeah, I think a lot of it's the all or nothing mentality once again.
Yeah.
Going back to the tiny changes. Like you said, Apple and Rice Krispie are both very easy to grab.
They are
on the go.
They're both ready for you.
But I'd rather have the Rice Krispie.
For sure.
Tastes better. It's got the sugar.
The macros diet comes into play there. You could have a macros diet, and you could have, if it's 20 grams of carbs from a Rice Krispies treat, you could have 20 grams of carbs from an apple or a Rice Krispie.
Absolutely.
And the difference is going to be minimal in terms of health purpose benefits. The biggest thing you can do for your health is to lose body fat, get in shape, and build muscle. And those foods support all of that as long as the calories are limited.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue for me is definitely ignoring the hunger cues.
Yeah. And for some people like you that are naturally skinny that want to get big, sometimes they do have to force the food, kind of like a large person does have to ignore the hunger and just diet anyway.
I think there's like a real mental aspect of people on both sides. It's kind of they don't want to, so they don't.
Yeah.
For years, our buddy Scott Ince was like, I can't gain weight, man.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can.
Shout out Scott.
Shout out to Scott Ince, firefighter, WPD or WFD. But yeah, it's basically all I'm trying to say is it might not be pleasant, but if your goal is to gain weight, eating more is your answer. If your goal is to lose weight, eating less is the answer. And like you keep saying, ignoring those hunger cues, that's what discipline is.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. There's some obvious cues when you're eating that it's easy to overeat simply because the food tastes good.
Absolutely.
And because we like eating. We like the process. Like when you're eating chips, like when you're watching TV, like what are you eating chips for? Like they taste the same. Every bite's the same. Eventually you stop even tasting them. You're just going through the bag as fast as you can. And that's because you don't want to stop eating. And so just recognizing that you stop early is one way to reduce calories that is just anybody can do anytime, anywhere. Any meal you're eating McDonald's, that's the only option. You can figure out a way to eat a smaller meal. You don't have to finish everything. You don't have to eat the fries. Things like that. The small changes add up for...
Not the fries?
Hey, you can eat the fries first,
You could at least get a small fry.
Small fry, you can get a Diet Coke,
My son always likes the apple slices instead of fries.
Oh, yeah. You ruined him, huh?
Got him brainwashed.
I know.
It's smart.
I had to do it early.
There are some parents that won't let their kids eat anything at all. Like I know other parents that their kids have never eaten McDonald's before, and they're like 13 years old.
Yeah, I feel like that's dangerous.
My kids are like, we got McDonald's, guys.
Yeah,
and they're like, what's it taste like? I've never had McDonald's before.
It's because you're gonna go wild when they get to college.
Yeah, I forget. Your kids are around a bunch of homeschooled kids, so they're probably very sheltered.
Other homeschool parents that are much more strict than we are in what their kids eat. Like what they watch on TV, things like that. We're reasonable. If I could watch it as a kid, they can watch it, kind of a thing.
My kid loves Baja Blast.
Yeah, dude. My kids beg for pop. And half the problem I have with pop, one, it's drinking calories that I think is just pointless for the most part. But two, it's the caffeine. Most of the time, it's the caffeine. Like, we go out and we grab something to eat. Can I have pop? I'm like, no, it's like 7:30, and you're going to drink like the equivalent of 2 cans of soda at a restaurant. Like, there's no chance you're going to drink that and go to sleep. So, you can have Sprite, I guess. Something like that. So, but I limit their pop. I think that's an important thing. They don't need to drink pop all the time, every day or anything. We usually limit to once or twice a week.
What about people that have their non-negotiables, right? Because for some people, like pop's a non-negotiable. Like some people need to have their Dr. Pepper, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm one of those people. I need to have my Dr. Pepper.
If it's a true non-negotiable, you can figure out how to fit it in your diet. I think most people are just afraid to just switch or go without for the most part. I think there's nothing that's a non-negotiable for the most part that doesn't have a diet Dr. Pepper remedy that's in there, right?
Oh, dude, Diet Dr. Pepper doesn't taste the same.
I think.
Can you name one pop that's the diet version that tastes the same as the non-diet version?
Coke Zero is pretty close.
Is it?
It's not. It's pretty good.
I've never had Coke Zero, if I'm being honest.
I mean,
Diet A&W root beer is pretty freaking good.
I think you're both right, honestly. I don't think there is one that's definitely not exactly the same, but there's definitely close. I remember getting a Diet Mountain Dew out of a vending machine in college on accident.
Ooh, man.
And legitimately didn't realize it till halfway through. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a little less syrupy.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably better.
I drank the shit out of some Diet Mountain Dew whenever I was dieting.
Oh, yeah. People who are dieting.
That was my dad's thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my dad would always do like the Body for Life stuff, or stuff that was just. And
Body for Life was a good program.
He would always
Crystal Light, baby.
Crystal Light was what
they
I did.
all used it.
I get myself water poisoning drinking so much Crystal Light.
Dude, wait, you did?
Yeah, my first bodybuilding show, I was so hungry that I would just fill up my shaker bottle and I'd pour Crystal Light packets in there and I would drink those because I wanted the flavor and I wanted something to eat. And after a while, my body weight started going up. And luckily, I had a coach at the time. And he's the one that was helping me do it. And I sent him my check-ins and my weight was up. And he's like, all right, man, be honest. Like, did you go binge McDonald's in the back of your closet or something? Like, you just let me know. And I'm like, I swear to God, I did not cheat on my diet. Like, nothing has changed. And he's like, starts asking me some questions. Like, have you been having headaches? Are you thirsty all the time? And I was like, yeah, I actually have been having headaches like throughout the day. And like, yeah, man, I'm thirsty. And so I'm drinking. Like, that's the trick with it is like, you just feel constantly thirsty. So you keep drinking more water. Well, what it was actually called hyponatremia. And it is it's water poison. It's whenever you drink too much water, you dilute your electrolytes. And so the response is to flush water out of your system. Mm-hmm. And so I was flushing water, but the electrolytes were so diluted and they weren't coming in that I was also not hydrated. So I was thirsty. So I just kept drinking. And it was just a worse problem. And finally he told me I had to like cut my water down and everything went back to normal. But there was a game show one time, I think it was a radio host. They had a challenge on like who could drink more water in 30 minutes.
I remember.
And then somebody died from water poisoning. And so you can die from anything, if you have enough of it.
See, when my dad was trying to lose weight, I was always watching him as a kid do the Diet Mountain Dew thing.
Yeah.
So that was breakfast. We'd run the quick trip every morning before he'd take me to school, and he'd get Diet Mountain Dew for breakfast.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there would be the after work beverage.
Yeah.
It would be water, Crystal Light, and vodka.
Yeah. I don't think vodka fit in the Body for Life diet.
Yeah, I don't think that's in the macros.
I will say there are people that get like a Diet Mountain Dew for breakfast or something like that. There's usually an underlying problem they have with food they need to address. Like whenever I was dieting for a bodybuilding show, I would watch the Food Network channel all the time. Ina Garten and whoever it was
all the stars.
And I would watch it and I would just sit there and be like, man, I bet that tastes so good. Now, when that happens, because in the off season, like you start eating normally and I never would watch the food channel.
Dude, that's like being married and just only watching porn.
That's exactly like it. But it's because you're not getting any. Yeah. And that's the reason. So when somebody gets to that point where they have to have a diet soda for breakfast or they have to have something like this or something like that, or they're so overly obsessed with food and they think about their next cheat meal and things like that. They need to figure out how to find something more sustainable because they will never stay on it. If it's like that, it's too restrictive for that person. And they need to figure out how to find a balance in their life because because when you eat a lot of food, your cravings are not like that. When I was dieting for bodybuilding shows, I would drive down the street, I would smell the food and I would just start like salivating. I'd just be like, oh man, that smells so good. I drive down the same street every day, and I would never, I never will smell that and just think that, almost, unless it's a good steakhouse or something, I'm right next door. But generally speaking, you don't drive past McDonald's and just like start salivating because you smelled McDonald's. But that's when you're restrictive to a very extreme point. Those problems start to arise, and that is where the eating disorders start to arise for people, and they need to be aware of that. And restriction is not the answer for eating disorders.
Hey, if you're John, you might drive by McDonald's and start salivating.
John loves his McDonald's breakfast.
Love McDonald's breakfast. Yeah. Shout out to McDonald's.
Had that this morning, didn't you?
Sausage biscuit, hash brown,
I had
large
a protein
Coke.
shake, guys.
I have not eaten yet today.
You wonder why you can't gain weight?
I was just about to say.
It's just 1 o'clock.
Ectomorph problems. I've been getting that McDonald's order for breakfast since freshman year of high school.
Yeah. Well, there's a way. This is something we're working on. I don't know when we're going to have it done, but we do have a restaurant guide coming where we're going to release, how you can eat a little bit healthier. It's not perfect. Like if you're eating out, if you're going to McDonald's for breakfast, somehow this is your only resort. My fingers are quoting you here.
It's my only option.
It's all I can eat. I couldn't plan ahead. But if you did, what would be the best options to choose? Or you're on a road trip. You're with your family. You're on family vacation. Maybe you don't want to go crazy. You just want to eat healthy where you can, and you want to, everybody's getting McDonald's. What do you choose?
There's all sorts of situations. You're on vacation. You're in an airport. You're on a long car drive. You're in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, oh, they got a Dairy Queen. You got a McDonald's. Like, well,
you're not dedicated enough to just order it as just a blank, grilled chicken breast.
Yeah, exactly.
There's other options. Some sandwiches.
Is that even legal? I didn't think.
I think you can.
I didn't even think that was legal, if I'm being honest.
Life's too short to be eating, you got to get something.
Yeah, that's another thing
that fat people say.
Well, for them,
life's too short not to eat ice cream. Nothing wrong with being fat if you want to be fat,
Yeah, I think the non-negotiable one is an interesting point, but people want to talk about the non-negotiable part. It's like, whoa, what are your goals?
Yeah,
because if I'm a great example, I love soda and liquid calories. But I also realize if I'm making those decisions, other decisions have to be made because of those decisions.
True.
If I'm going to drink 700 calories of Coke in one day, first of all, it's not good.
That's a lot of calories.
That's like 4 or 5. But if realistically,
it's like what I drink a day.
I think it's $1.50, 150 calories per soda. So if I'm planning 300 calories of soda in my diet a day, I need to be planning for other things, not to have those liquid calories, to be in a caloric deficit if I want to lose weight. All I'm saying is it's a decision and a sacrifice either way.
Yes.
You can have your Coke, have it in the morning whenever you want, but you're going to have to make decisions to not gain weight because of that decision as well.
You can have your Coke and drink it too.
You remember that Super Size Me movie?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great example.
Super Size Me. Uh-huh. So the premise of Super Size Me was back when McDonald's had the Super Size.
Oh, was it like a little documentary thing?
Yeah, it was a documentary.
Yeah.
The guy, for 30 days, he went around, and if they offered him a Super Size option, he took the Super Size option, and then he tracked his blood levels for cholesterol. He tracked his body weight. He tracked all this stuff for health purposes, and basically proved that if you overeat and you glutton yourself with the Super Size meal at McDonald's, you're going to get fat and your blood levels are going to decrease. But what was interesting is there's a guy that refuted the same thing and did the opposite. He proved that you could eat McDonald's every single day, and he took blood work before and then blood work after, and he lost weight while he ate only McDonald's for 30 days with no other meals, and his blood markers improved, like cholesterol, because the most important part is the weight loss, not as much the food source.
Yeah.
And so that's the point. It's not a perfect food, but it is something that is real in society, and it's a real option that we all have, and we do choose it from time to time. And you may be better than us, but I like my McDonald's, and I think it's delicious. Yeah. And there's a way whenever you're in a bind to make a little bit better choice. So we're going to have a restaurant guide coming out that'll have some of those choices.
Yes, we are. Can you offset horrible meal decisions with exercise?
No.
You can't cancel them out completely?
No, I don't think so. Your level of exercise becomes ridiculously high whenever you try to do that. Like, if you, like, everybody knows the construction workers that eat just nasty, nasty meals every single day and don't gain weight. That's because the activity level is extreme for the most part. And they may not be eating much for breakfast, and that may be the only thing they really eat for the day other than dinner. So, that's something to take into consideration. But it's the fact that they're so active. And so you have to think of the activity levels that you would have to do to burn a 1,500 calorie meal or something, if that's what you're eating for a cheat meal. and how much extra, an extra 1,500 calories on top of your day, what that looks like in exercise. And it's an extreme amount of exercise. And so I don't think it's possible.
I think you also have to be careful with that whole, like, what does, like if a calorie represents something, it's like, all right, I got to burn that much on, the treadmill. It's like, my sister used to be like, one M&M is like, like whatever it was, like 8 minutes on the treadmill or something. It's like, well, yeah, it's going to be a long life. If you're approaching
never eat M&Ms that way.
Exactly. Like, it's just not a healthy
look at it like
mindset.
that. You just want to get fat. I mean, just accept your fate there. I'm not spending 8 minutes per M&M on the treadmill.
No, man.
Weightlifting, though, that'll help your metabolism a lot more.
Oh, I know.
That's the better way to go. But no, to punish yourself with exercise after making a bad food decision is also a sign of a mental disorder. So
yeah, that's what I mean. You got bigger problems there. You need to reevaluate your relationships with your body. And
it's very common. Mental disorders are all over the place in the bodybuilding industry. It's just,
I feel like mental disorders are just kind of more common than
we're
we
all
realize.
crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all crazy in our own ways. It's just very, very apparent now.
I think you're probably right, but we also have made a lot in the past 20 years.
They've come up with a lot more examples.
Yeah.
They took this big chunk of people and they divided them into 100 different.
That's what
disorders.
I mean.
What's an ideal person though? Like, what is an
just
ideal?
Kind of like me, I think, for the most part.
I think
reasonable.
All three of us have a
relatively good looking.
But I think we went from like
the mustache.
I don't want to
get the mustache.
I think we have like over 300 like mental disorders and stuff. That's like, I don't want to talk too much out of my ass on this one, but
you do have a degree in this.
Yeah, I know. So the DSM's gotten quite a bit bigger. So I'm not saying we're any more or less crazy. I think there's just more names or designations for it nowadays.
Yeah,
there's definitely more medications for it now.
Well, I think you can see it too. Like what the interesting thing on TikTok is that the algorithm gets really good, and after a while, it starts showing you things that are very relevant to you, and you start to figure out you're not that different from other people in your own crazy way. Yep. And there are a lot of other people that are just as crazy as you in this one crazy way. And I think that's the cool part of TikTok and social media. And it's also bad when it comes to politics and, you find all the other crazy people with politics.
Right.
But, you reinforce your views. But I think it's really cool. But that's what, you see that all of these little tendencies that you have, a lot of people have, and that's, maybe you're crazy for it.
And that leads me to the way I feel about it is like Brock said, it seems more apparent. It's like, I think we're all just more aware of it.
Yeah.
If everyone has a mental health problem, then no one has a mental health problem.
That's very true.
Right? Yeah. That's what I was about to say is like, at what point is it a personality trait and not a mental health issue?
Maybe neuroticism is up. Maybe, I don't, social media is such a lazy thing to blame, but awareness has been proven to not be that helpful for people. And for some reason,
you mean like awareness isn't like social awareness?
Just awareness for anything. Everything was, raising. We got to raise awareness. We got to promote awareness. It's like, dude, how long have we heard about breast cancer?
Yeah,
that hasn't gotten a lot better.
Well, there's no money in there's no money in that.
I'm just saying, awareness is not linked to
that's Susan G. Komen.
You know what I'm saying? Awareness is not related to getting over anything. Yeah. It's like, I'm just aware of a problem now.
True.
Awareness
it doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, it's usually kind of a negative thing a lot of times.
It can actually kind of reinforce the problem.
It's like, well, that's not going to be easy to fix, or that's still going to be there. So
yeah, when you start to have to hide things, I think they become like this hidden part of your personality that actually are worse. So somebody that has some sort of an addiction that they get caught with and they have to hide this addiction from other people, become very good at hiding it, but they are very addicted.
I would never say anxiety doesn't exist or anything like that, but I do think
before, guys.
Sometimes I do think some people's the way they feel anxiety is just hyper awareness.
That's fair,
because there's so many things going on, and if they're negative or whatever, of course you're going to have anxiety. There's so many things out of your control, and you're seeing things that it's just like, dude, it's overwhelming.
I heard an example of a way to reframe anxiety one time, and I think it was one of the successors of Jung and Freud, I think, if I was right. But he said that they, like depth psychology, I think is what it was. But he had all of his patients reframe it as excitement. I'm not feeling anxious, I'm feeling excited. And they started telling themselves they were feeling excited. And all of a sudden, the same feeling can be explained as anxiety or excitement, but you interpret them different ways with your brain. And so you have the same feeling. And so excitement is a better way to reframe it.
Yeah, there's a negative connotation with anxiety because it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
How do you... I'm sorry to interrupt.
But, no,
damn it, Barack.
How do you guys use the gym to like help your anxiety? Because for me personally, it's been a couple weeks where there's been a little more going on, a little anxiousness, and I haven't been able to get to to roll as much. And I noticed that a lot in my mental health.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people can fix a lot of their issues in their life by getting exercise. It doesn't have to be going and bench pressing or squatting at your local YMCA. It can be going and walking your dog and whatnot. I feel like the benefit of exercise to all these things that we just talked about, and even nutrition kind of goes into that. Like how have you noticed that from a guy who's eaten very healthy, exercised all the time, and then have gone back to less of that? Like how's your headspace? And you also, I'm sorry to
go ahead.
You also got to consider people as the headspace of. You said bodybuilding has a lot of mental disorders of insecurities. Take that out. I'm just talking the ability to take on situations as they come, I guess.
Okay. Well, I will say the motivation's different with going to the gym, right? Because previously the motivation to go to the gym was very focused on bodybuilding and the way I looked, right? And that drove me to the gym. Once you take that away, now you have a different motivation to go to the gym. Now you have a different reason to go to the gym. And one of those is that I do feel better. Whenever I'm exercising and staying active, could be anxiety. It could just be the endorphins. It could just be that I'm eating healthier, things like that. But I feel better. I don't know enough about the science of mental health and exercise to talk. Maybe John does. But.
I mean, a lot of it's just like endorphins, right? I mean, you literally release it when you work out. There's a reason like you have that, like, I don't want to be here. And almost no matter what, by the end of your workout, you feel better.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a pride that comes with sticking through something that you is hard to do. I think that's.
And I don't think honestly, I don't think it's a lot more than that. Sometimes, like just getting through a workout, even if it's not the greatest workout, sometimes it's like, all right, well, I showed up, I did it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like a mental rep in some ways. It's like I'm showing up for something. I did something. I don't feel like I'm not a piece of shit today.
Yeah.
Because I went to the gym and I got that done. I don't know. I think it's one of those things. It's like the longer you do it, the better you feel about it.
That's a good point that you make as well there with, it makes you feel good sticking through stuff that you don't want to do. I feel like why we have such a mass issue on social health, especially in Western civilization these days, is because we undervalue sticking through things you don't want to do or making sacrifices. And, too much sun or too much warm weather, too much of a nice thing makes you underappreciate a nice thing. I feel like a big issue we've run into is we've had this nice thing for so long and we underappreciate it. And that's kind of what we're leading into. And I think it kind of comes with your body as well as people start young, high school, college, they kind of have the bodies they want. Not everybody, but and then they kind of get older and underappreciate what they had and whatnot. And I kind of see some similarities there with both the psychological and physical sense of that.
Yeah, I could see that. There's one unique thing that I noticed and I was going to bring up, and it was the ability to push through the pain threshold is one interesting benefit from exercise that's almost like a meditative state. Because whenever you're pushing through exercises that hurt, especially consistently grinding through an exercise, there was an exercise I used to do called a Widowmaker, and it was a 20 rep squat. And you did it at the end of your workout. It was kind of the last thing you did before you left, and you dropped the weight so that you could do 20 reps. But 20 reps on the squats is miserable. But the ability to grind through that does, show itself in other areas of your life could be patience, could be anxiety, it could be any of these things that you're more able to tolerate. I think whenever you tolerate pain, when you tolerate these kind of things, that you start to grow I don't want to say a callus to them, but you're able to handle them more.
100%. And you do not need a degree in psychology to realize that. If you don't think that pushing through something at some point in your life has affected your other decision to push through or not, then you are kidding yourselves.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a science of willpower in that, where it's gradually making yourself do things that you don't want to do, and that builds your willpower, I think, which is good.
Getting used to it, and it doesn't have to be torture, but like just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. You're just pushing your comfort zone.
You don't have to go full David Goggins or anything, but just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little,
Tony Perkis, David Goggins.
Shout out to Tony Perkis.
To anybody knows Tony Perkis, I'll give you some free supplements. You better tell me.
Yeah. I'll use code Tony Perkis for 20% off.
Yeah.
I will make the discount code myself.
Yep.
Ben Stiller is one of the best bad guys of all time.
He's a great
and it's so weird because I never think about it.
Yeah.
But he's like one of the best villains in movie history,
in my
opinion.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's a real actor, guys.
That's right. You can do it all.
Second only to Arnold, right?
Arnold.
Oh,
Arnold. Get to the chopper.
I'm missing a good Arnold movie. Those are the better days of cinema, man. It really was.
It was, yeah. Sorry to say that the good movies are dead and gone, especially comedy. Comedy's gone.
Yeah. Cancel culture killed comedies. Hasn't been anything good since Tropic Thunder.
That's 2012.
Which is yeah.
Was it? No, it was Tropic Thunder is definitely earlier than that.
I don't think so. It's 210, 212.
Nah, dude, because I would bet some money because I'd have
How much you want to bet?
How much would you bet?
I'll bet you the pizza party today that Tropic Thunder came out before 2010 or before.
2010 or before. You got it.
I'll bet you the pizza party.
You got it, brother.
Pizza party. Coming in hot.
Tropic Thunder.
And I'll tell you why I know after you research this.
Damn it. It's 2008. He's right. Damn.
I knew it was close.
He's right.
I knew I watched that pizza party today.
Yeah. Hooray.
Yes.
Damn it.
Brock didn't bring lunch. He's ecstatic.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident in my 2000
Doesn't have to ride the bike to Subway.
Yeah.
The only reason I know that is because I'm pretty sure I watched that movie with my mother and she passed away in 2010. So I was like, I had a pretty sure memory there that I was like,
yeah, that's
I knew
it
was around there, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
A 5-year period. But
I should have went 2009 because I was like that confident too.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident.
Yeah, you win. He wins today, guys.
And we'll end on that note.
And that's the end of this episode. And now I'm pissed. Yeah. Bye.
It's a good note.
Damn it.
So we will be having a 20% off code. Use the Nut Club.
Yeah, just Nut Club.
Okay.
NUTCLUB, Nut Club.
Nut Club.
That's 20% off for your first purchase. It can't be every day. If it's every time, I'll go broke, guys. But 20% off your first purchase.
Can we do free shipping if you've purchased before?
Free. Yeah, it's like a separate code on there. If you order over $75, it'll ship for free every time.
Oh, sweet. There you go. There you got it. You don't even need the Nut Club for that.
Stock up with the Nut Club, but it's just Nut Club, not the Nut Club on the code. Brock can put it up. On
the
screen.
Is intended.
Right
There's
he won't do it, but I'm gonna say
right.
I'm gonna say it goes right here. If anybody makes it to the end of this,
perfect.
Hey, we'll know who watched.
We'll know who watched. Congrats, guys!
Well, thank you for cranking one out with the Nut Club.
You're the real MVPs. Thank you for cranking it out with the Nut Club.
We don't have Richard today to say it.
No.
See you
we
next
miss you,
week.
Richard.
R.I.P. Richard.
R.I.P. See y'all.
See.